Okay, this is Moshe coming to you from Israel on the second attempt here. We had some sort of sabotage attack on the first attempt at a live stream, so I suggest you do spiritual warfare and prayer warfare to make sure that doesn't happen again. I have a theory that I don't want to discuss here why it happened. Something to do with key words. So I need to reboot this one and clear so I can see what's going on with this broadcast. So anyway, let me do the praise while I'm waiting for this to reboot. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay. Let me get this up and log in and see what's going on, if we got a live stream or if it's buffering or whatever it's. Yeah, I didn't put a title in this on purpose. Let's see if we're getting any buffering. No, it seems to be working. Now, they attacked somebody on the internet in the pipeline. Okay, so it could be anywhere. So do your SW directed at the ones causing the difficulty, as well as all their co-workers within 100 meters. And that ought to take care of it. Okay, so I'm going to start by going through some of the news. I think it's okay. If it's not okay, send me another email or WhatsApp or something so I know it's going bad. Because I look here and I don't necessarily see a problem. Okay, so we were on Palm Beach. So 9,000 population. No, it's not. Wait a minute. I can't. No, it's 9,000, and they got 58 billionaires. So, B'Shem Yeshua Mashiach, I command you, unclean spirits, to depart from every person in Palm Beach, Florida, that lives there, owns property there. Depart from all of these people and their households, and never return unto them again. And depart from everybody in Palm Beach, Florida now. And whenever anybody enters into Palm Beach, Florida, that has an unclean spirit, you shall depart from that person immediately as soon as they enter, and never return unto them again, and never warn them, and never explain to them what happened after you left them. And none of you unclean spirits shall be allowed to be in any body or any living thing in Palm Beach, Florida, or in Palm Beach, Florida, not in a living thing, for and these commands shall apply for 1 year continuously, beginning now, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay. And I make the same commands on Mar-a-Lago, Florida. The same commands apply immediately for 1 year continuously to Mar-a-Lago, Florida, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach. Okay, moving along. Arizona's drought. The San Carlos Reservoir in Arizona is nearly dry. Okay, so don't take this drought stuff lightly. I've shown you it is in the Jeremiah 51. The reservoir held what I'm reading here, it says held less than 8,700 acre feet of water as of September 10th, compared to 500,000 acre feet in 2023. So it went from 500 is drought supreme. San Carlos Reservoir in Arizona. This does affect crops, which will affect food. Food will be expensive, and there won't be that much of it. That's why it'll be expensive. I wanted to say, return to me and I will return to you. And the rabbis in Israel have always done anything but encourage the people to return to God correctly. I've never seen it happen. There's tremendous reliance on the United States, on their own military, on extra biblical books that are not real, like the Talmud and stuff like this. It's, that's their job. Ahead of the holidays, Israel warns of Iran-backed terror groups or threats to Israelis and Jews abroad. I wouldn't be that worried about it. It could be, but it's definitely a relevant warning, and it could be, but I'm not overly enthusiastic about something like that happening. It could. Okay. The UN's disproportionate focus on 2023, remember October 7th was the beginning of the war, 2023. UN Security Council has held 60 meetings on Gaza. Overshadowing larger crises. In other words, they're ignoring larger crises. While about 640,000 people in Gaza are allegedly affected by food shortage, hunger, so forth, a staggering 215.9 million people in other parts of the world face hunger emergencies, and they're not holding meetings about these people. So obviously there's a large bias against Israel. Israel is not Satan's chosen people. Guess who is? Okay. Countries like Sudan, with 24.6 million people, are affected, and Yemen, with 17 million, are affected and are getting far less attention from the UNSC Security Council. Why is this, happening? And the answer is rather obvious. Now, what do we got here? Palestine serves as a powerful fundraising cause, particularly within the world of people sympathetic to them. You know who that is. Israel, Palestine is regarded as a comfortable and desirable posting. In other words, it's favorable to post about how the Palestinians are getting beaten up and kicked to the curb, and how evil and wrong Israel is, and starving them and all of this stuff. That's what it's saying. Okay. now you go to NATO and Russia. This situation is really tense, you know. Russia's shooting missiles into Ukraine. Well, we know they're at war with Ukraine, so that's pretty much normal. So I don't know what NATO is going to do about Russia. I think a lot of it's going to depend on what Russia does. Okay, I don't think NATO is going to just say, okay, Article 5, we got to wipe out Russia. It's going to depend on Russia doing something, violating Article 5. In other words, actually continuing to put drones in Romania and Poland that actually cause damage of a serious nature, like military damage, transportation damage, stuff like that. We'll see what happens. And, Trump is not at all happy with Russia at all. India had a 5.8 earthquake. Now, this is really weird. Mexico put 50% tariffs on Chinese cars. I don't know what is up with this. Is it Mexico helping Trump? Well, it's impossible, you know. Maybe the woman running Mexico wants to show Trump she's not with China and the communists, and she's with Trump, and maybe that's it. Or maybe they got a beef with China putting tariffs on their stuff. I don't know. But when you put a 50% tariff on cars made in China, you're going to hurt sales of not a little, not moderately, very badly. And Mexico does make some of their own cars. Now, some of the plants that were in Mexico making cars to be sold in America, when Trump started with the tariffs, they shut the plants down and shifted their manufacturing back into the U.S. because they didn't want to have an inventory of 37,000 cars that are going to have a 35% tax on them or something like that, because they have tremendous amount of time selling them. Now, they didn't take the plant and sell it or dismantle it. So they probably kept, a few dozen people at the plant to come every day and do the maintenance. And, now it might only be 10, 15 people, but it's probably a number like that. And in addition to that, there would definitely be a security detail there. So there's probably, a bunch of security guys with guns running around and watching cameras. And there's maintenance people there that are cleaning the place and, making sure everything is okay, like the electricity, the air ventilation, and keeping the plant ready to be operated again, I believe. That would be a way of putting it. So maybe they're planning on coming back if Trump makes some kind of sweetheart deal with Mexico where they could make cars and then sell them in America with a very low tariff. I think they could handle 10, 15% or even 20 because the cars are made cheaper down there. Well, we'll see what happens. Trump might go for it because he's going to get 15 or 20% tariff. It's money coming into the American pocketbook, and the cost of the Mexican labor is so low, they probably can still make the cars in Mexico and cheaper, even though they're going to pay this tariff and sell it than they could in America, because the wages are pretty high in America and they got to give them health insurance. There's a lot of unionization. There's workman's comp, unemployment insurance, OSHA inspections, and more vacations with the union people, and it's medical and leave and medical leave and pregnancy, giving birth to the baby leave and all. So they could maybe even sell the cars in America paying, let's say, 15% or 18% tariff eh, to bring the cars made in Mexico into America and make more profit doing that than they could with doing the whole car in America. You understand what I'm saying, I think. So it could be better for them to do that with the tariff, okay? Could be better. Not with a 35% tariff. It would have to, then I don't think they could cut it, you know. So that's what I think is maybe behind this, maybe. Uh, Let me see if I could get a better answer, because this is very suspicious and weird. Not so much suspicious, it's weird. Um, I'll get an answer quickly here. Hold on. And why didn't they do all Chinese goods? Well, I guess the cars are probably the most expensive thing that's commonly brought in from China. Okay, it wasn't just China, it was other Asian countries. So that would probably be South Korea that has a Hyundai and Kia. I don't think, well, then it would also be Japan, which has a lot of cars. So they put the tariff on the countries that don't have a free trade agreement, such as, so South Korea is okay. They got a free trade agreement with Mexico, as does India, Indonesia, Russia, Thailand, and Turkey, as part of a broader legislative proposal sent to Congress by President Claudia, whatever her name is, Scheinbaum. Now that sounds like she's Jewish. On September 10th, this raises the existing tariff of 20% to the maximum level showed under World Trade Organization rules. Yeah, well, Israel does 100%, and on more expensive cars, 150%. Go, Netanyahu, go. Break the banks of the poor people here. They wanted to protect the domestic manufacturing jobs, strategic industries. Mexico has been the world's largest buyer of Chinese-made cars in 2025, with sales of brands like BYD and CHIREY. I don't know anything about these cars. So it was creating trade deficits for Mexico. In other words, they were putting too much money into China and getting nothing from China, basically, not enough. There's about 325,000 jobs in Mexico at stake. I see what happened. Um, so, in a nutshell, what I would guess the Chinese did is they went into the Mexican market with low prices and warranties of 5 or 8 or 10 years or something like that. And the Mexican people figured, what the heck? It's a cheaper car, and I got this long warranty, so it must be a pretty good car. Chances are that logic often holds true. Sometimes it may not. And that's what happened. So Mexico wanted to shift back to other cars. Now, I expect the cars in Mexico are much cheaper. They normally don't put the safety features on the cars that you get in America. So they're cheaper, you know. Uh, all right, let's see what's going on here. It looks like we got a live stream. Let me check it. Yeah, they put a title in this one. I guess the Chinese did is they went into the Mexican market with low prices to like, we got a live stream. Let me check. Yeah, they put a title in this one. Yeah, the live stream seems to be working pretty good now. I guess the Chinese did is they went into the Mexican market with low prices to like. Thanks, Pam. They're selling electric cars in Israel, and there's concessions you get from the Israeli government when you buy electric cars, and the taxes are far lower than regular cars, and the Chinese are selling cars here, and they're given up to 8-year warranties, depending on the model and the brand. And my wife says that in the hot summer days, we've seen a lot of these electric vehicles, maybe China and otherwise, where the battery explodes. Now that would be on warranty, so they would probably fix the whole car for you, including damage to the hood and stuff, but your car would probably be in the shop for 2 or 3 months. Um, And I don't know if it's only the Chinese cars that blow up like that. You'd have to research it and see which cars do blow up. And that probably happens in days where it's 103 or 106 or 104 or something, and you're in traffic running the air conditioner, and that's probably what happened. In the old days that you guys, only your older people here would remember, we used to take cars and make them hot roddy because you couldn't. They didn't have the first hot rod you could buy from the factory that was like really a hot rod was the 1964 Pontiac GTO, and Buick had a similar model and stuff. That's when it started, and people weren't really buying them. They weren't that expensive, but people weren't really buying them. What people was doing till probably 66 is they were buying older cars and they would modify them. Okay? Like 57 Chevy was very, very popular for modifying. And it was limited what you could do. Like what? You could rip the automatic out and put 4 on the floor in. The Hearst shifter, that was real common, right? You could change the carburetors and add extra carburetors. So you could put 3 deuces, 3 2 barrels on, or 2 4 barrels, whatever you want to do. And you could change the camshaft, make it higher, and you could change the pistons, make them higher compression. So you had to use more high octane gas, and you could change the rear end so you could put like a 390 or a 410 rear end in, so the car's going to accelerate way faster. And you could change the exhaust to make it less restrictive without getting tickets for noise. What else could you do? That was about it. And you'd be able to get, let's say an engine that had 235 horsepower, you might get it up to 280 or even 300, maybe. And that was what you could do. So you can make the car more fun and somewhat noticeably faster. Okay, but it wouldn't stay up with the GTO. Those were blazing fast. They underestimated the horsepower. They were telling everybody it was 348 horsepower. It was probably 425. GTO was a screamer, you know. So, once the factory was selling the supercars, the Camaros, the Chevelles, and, the people stopped doing the hot rod stuff. But what we used to do was take the hood. Now, I had this done on an Impala I had that had some engine work. The hood would open by the headlights, but they would take bolts and lift the hood up by the driver's side, by the windshield. And you'd get about an inch out of it, right? Maybe an inch and a half. You put bolts on, it was easy to make it happen. Would that possibly cause the windshield to come in, the hood to get propelled into the car and knock your head off or something? Maybe, but probably not. And that allowed ventilation in the motor, so your car would stay cooler, okay? And that was because when you were driving it aggressively in the heat, you had problems. Now, you could also rig it so that it would stick up in the front. It did make a difference. It really did. The other way, now these people that wanted to go fast, they didn't have air conditioners in their cars. They didn't care about air conditioning. Okay. So the car wouldn't get hot from the air conditioner. And it would be very hard to find a larger radiator and put it in and change the water pump and make it more aggressive. That was going pretty far then. Now the factories do that. And you could also put an oil cooler in your car, which is like a little mini radiator that goes in front of the radiator. It's maybe, like that big. And it cools the oil. So when the oil stays cooler, the oil runs through it and the water, the air cools it down. And that helps the engine stay cool too. So there wasn't a whole lot we could do back then, but we didn't have to worry about this electric car stuff. So apparently the electric cars and the batteries, we just had a regular battery in the car that really didn't blow up or anything. You had to make sure you kept water in it back then. And it was predominantly used to start the car, and then it would recharge. And if you had a generator, it would. And if you had an alternator, the cars actually in the late 50s, I think, all had alternators. It would charge, and then once you got a full charge, I think it stopped charging or something. It wasn't. It didn't cause explosions. So that's a little scary, having your car explode, your battery, So anyway, I think the manufacturers are going to have to learn how to deal with that, or they're not going to sell electric cars to a lot of people. Nobody wants to be sitting in the car and the battery explodes. These are big batteries, big things. They're like, big. They're not like regular car batteries. It's a big thing. All right. So there's an emergency summit of the Arab states that are Muslim states normally, going to Qatar yesterday and today for a summit that Egypt called. And this summit has tremendous prophetic fulfillment of prophecy, in my opinion. Now, it could be a false alarm, and I can be wrong, but there's too many other signs, okay? The drought in America, the fires in and around the cities in America, the resentment growing against Trump, the violence in America with the mass shootings practically every day. Ruler against ruler, the governors and the courts turning against Trump. I'll be back in a minute. We'll continue. This is big. I think we've reached it. So Egypt, this together, and what Egypt is doing is telling the Arab states that we need to form our own NATO, okay? All for one and one for all. So if Qatar gets hit, like Qatar got hit the other day, okay? Qatar got hit the other day. Israel attacking the Hamas leaders running the war, keeping the war going, no hostages returned and so forth. So we attacked them in Qatar. Now Qatar is a conspirator with Hamas, don't kid yourself. And so is Egypt. And Netanyahu, being the village idiot, used Qatar and Egypt to negotiate with Hamas. What a moron, you know? So, Egypt has 100,000 troops on the border of Gaza and Israel with tanks and artillery and everything, and they're dug in like permanent embankments and things. That violates the ceasefire treaty with Israel, Jimmy Carter days. Egypt's not supposed to be there. Trump's not doing anything about it. Egypt does not want to see Trump, an infidel country, take Muslim land. The Quran says that if a Muslim country ever had the land, it always belongs to them for perpetuity. During the Crusades, they had Jerusalem, and they think it always belongs to them now. So that's a lot of the background of these land disputes. Now, Egypt did not cut Trump in on this. Egypt did not consult with him, and Trump ain't in it. Now, they're going to probably take into this network 40 or 50 Arab states. No. Will India go in? I seriously doubt it, because India has a Hindu leader, infidel, and it's only partially Muslim, and it's not an Arab state at all. It really isn't. Nobody's ever going to make an argument India is an Arab state. Who the heck would do that? Russia? No, they're not going to go in. China? No. They could make exceptions and bring them in as, sideline, but I don't think so. China and Russia would only go in if they had major clout, They're not going to let themselves get sucked into something that they can't really exert a lot of control over, so I don't think so. The same for North Korea and Belarus. Now, Azerbaijan, maybe Afghanistan, maybe. Oman, likely. UAE, likely. Qatar, of course. Bahrain, yeah. Kuwait, don't know. Jordan, probably. Iraq, most likely. Iraq is Arab. Iran is not Arab. They're Persian, but will they be taken in? I don't know. Egypt may not want them in there. It's too much of a hot potato right now. So Iran membership there would be using the membership to take a turn against the IAEA, which would mean turn against the entire United Nations, and could possibly drag them into a war over Iran's nuclear ambitions. And they may not be very interested in that. So they could leave Iran out. It's possible. They're not Arab. What about Yemen? You know, I have to look this up. I don't think the Yemenites are considered Arabs. Let's take a look. They're their own category. No, they are considered Arabs, the Yemenites. Okay. I'm going to do a search for this, look up on if they consider Iranians Arabs. No, no. Yeah. They have their own, see, they have their own language. Yemen, I believe, speaks Arabic. Iran speaks Farsi, the Persian language. So, no. So, man, I don't, they're in these various Arab leagues. Uh, they might wind up in, we'll have to just see how this plays out. I don't know. Uh, so this is working around the, it's kind of jointly organized by the Arab League and the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Okay. So let's see if Iran is in the Arab League, number one. That's easy. Well, Iran is not in the Arab League due to ethnic and linguistic uh, issues. And let's see if they're in the other one, which is the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. Probably in that one. It is in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. So there's a 50% chance it gets in. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation has 57 members. So this, when you combine their military might, it's huge. What's missing? I don't think any of them have any real serious aircraft carriers or stealth jets or good missiles and stuff like that. But when you add them all together, they got a lot of might. Okay. And Egypt is particularly upset that Trump's going to run the Gazans out, and he knows they're going to run them out. And he put the soldiers there to make sure that they don't wind up in Egypt. He also put the soldiers there, I think, to make sure they don't wind up going into Egypt and then into other Arab countries in Africa, like Somalia. Of course, there's a country, a renegade country in Somalia called Somalia Land that is interested in taking in these refugees from Gaza. I heard the figure of paying them $5,000 a head to go out. Now that is not a family. Although it didn't clarify, because they're not going to pay the same thing to a guy and his wife as they would pay a guy and his wife and 5 children. You know. So I imagine that it would go like that. So Egypt is the one behind this, but saying, well, we attacked them in Qatar, and we're going to get them wherever they are. And Turkey is worried right now. Turkey is very worried because they got some Hamas high-ranking figures in Turkey, and Turkey is afraid Israel might do it. Now, would Turkey want to go to war against Israel over that? No. Why? Well, it would jeopardize their NATO status because Trump would be mad. He'd go through the roof. Trump would say they went ahead and killed a bunch of terrorists that you were harboring, sucker, and now you want to wipe them off the map because you were harboring terrorists. What's wrong with you, you moron? Wake up, And that. So, what I believe is going to happen is they're going to have this coalition now. What I think was tried, but it's not going, is it didn't really even get tried. China, Russia, and Iran were going to make the BRICS people, first they had to suck them in. That they did. Then they had to actually do the trades in BRIC currency without using the SWIFT international banking system, so the United States and the European Union don't know who paid who what, right? And can't impose sanctions or anything else. And start the trading that way off the US dollar and off the euro for oil, natural gas, foods, all kinds of things, right? And break the economy of Europe and most importantly the United States. The United States dollar is widely accepted, and the United States just goes and prints money as it sees fit, and people still accept the dollar. It's rather stupid, okay? The euro is a little bit, well, it's rather more well disciplined because it's not one person, the White House, over the whole currency of the euro. It's all these little countries, so they have supervision over it. So, it's not that the European Union doesn't exactly issue the euros, the individual countries do. See what I'm saying? And they're controlled. So it's not as wild of a field day as Trump has with the US dollar. So as long as the dollar is the accepted universal trade, international trade currency, and it has demand on it, they can do whatever they want and keep minting dollars out of thin air and building billion-dollar aircraft carriers and F-35s and whatever they want, war toys, and dominating the world. So when you get rid of their money supply in America, they can't dominate the world because they can't run around making all these war toys. They got to actually play by a real sense of rules. Not that these oil-producing countries should talk, because they're a bunch of morons and they hire foreign workers to build their oil refineries and their wells and everything else and run it for them. And they just sit around wearing royal robes, eating the finest foods in the world, and doing nothing, riding around on their yachts and their planes and showing everybody how rich they are. That's pretty much what they do. They don't tend to pay that much attention to the militaries. I don't know if any of them have real advanced stealth fighter jets. Don't know about that. China and Russia would sell it to them, but I don't believe they have them. So this looks like it's going to go. And it's driven by Egypt, and Egypt is in prophecy. Remember the prophecy in Genesis 15, the land covenant. Okay, God promises Israel the land by covenant. He makes a covenant. God is not a covenant breaker, and it goes from the Euphrates River to the Nile. Now, I'll give you a rundown of the countries that this is involved in. The Nile goes all the way down to Lake Victoria, quite a ways. And the Egyptians were building, what are they called, pyramids and sphinxes and garbage like that, all the way down to Lake Victoria when they had it. So, okay. It involves the land going to Israel from the Nile River east. So that includes that portion of Egypt, Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Uganda. Djibouti, Somalia, Eritrea, Ethiopia, and I think it covers that. Yes?
I'll be back. We're not for an hour, but I'll make you breakfast when I get back.
Okay, you going to the supermarket?
No.
Oh, okay.
I know you need bread. I don't know if I'll get to that, but I will.
Okay. So, that's the Africa part. Now we go to the main Middle East, and it includes Saudi Arabia, Yemen, although Yemen gets destroyed, it becomes a wasteland, but it would be in there, I suppose. Jordan. Now, Jordan is, biblically speaking, Ammon, which is northern Jordan, and they submit to Israel and live pretty prosperously and well. They do fine. And then you have central and southern Jordan, which is Moab, and it gets wiped out. So this shows us a good entry point for Jordan to get involved and get wiped out. Okay? This thing Egypt is doing. So you got Jordan, and then Syria, will they get in it? More than likely. They're Arab and they're Muslim. I don't see why they wouldn't. Iraq, they would be in it. Lebanon. I don't know. We have to watch that one, because it's not a pure, Muslim state, and it'd probably go in it. Okay, and then you got Turkey, which is an Arab Muslim state, and then you got Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. Bahrain and Qatar most likely, Oman most likely, Kuwait probably, UAE, yeah, they'll join. And then comes Iran, which is the wild card. And then you have other countries that are not really right local to us that are also in it, like Indonesia, which is a very large Muslim majority country that's Arab, So there's a lot of other countries as well. Afghanistan, for instance, Azerbaijan, places like this. So some of the stand countries near Russia might be involved. Now, they are likely going to do this quickly because they don't like what Trump and Israel are up to at all. And they know that Trump wants to knock down Iran So Iran has no serious power or influence in the region, and Russia's being knocked down. So Trump is attempting to emerge as the great power, and he is not Muslim. He's not very sympathetic to the Muslims. He is out for Trump. He's pumping the oil out of Syria. You know, he attacked Yemen many times. He attacked Iran a little bit and supports Israel in their attacks. So they're not happy with Trump at all. So the invaders that are going to not care about money and dash the babies open, like grab it by the feet and bang it into the wall or something, and destroy the idols, would be this new coalition of Islamic people. Look, the Hindus got idols. Why would they destroy the idols in America? They would respect them, maybe even worship them. Oh, we got the American gods. Let's play homage to them too. Give them an offering. They wouldn't destroy it. The Buddhists, they wouldn't destroy it either. They were all about idols with Buddha and rubbing his belly and putting offerings over by his statue. They're not gonna do it. The Catholics, what Catholics are gonna invade? But even if there were, they got their own idols too. They're not gonna do it. The atheists, like China or North Korea, what do they care about idols for? They want to have idols, have idols. They're not going to go out of their way to destroy them. Who would? The Islamist countries. And it talks about that in Jeremiah 50:51, destroying the idols and being cruel and mean to the people, burning their houses. That's what they did in October 7th. They burned the houses with people in it, burned people alive, cut fetuses out of pregnant women in front of their families. I mean, it was just beyond belief what they did. If Hollywood made a horror movie depicting what they did, it would be banned. So it was, this is going to come together very, very quickly. I don't know how long it's going to take them to write the rules and submit everybody to go in it, but I think they're ready for it. I think this is it. This would be what's attacking America. This coalition. Would China and Russia join in with them? I don't know. Would North Korea? I don't know. They do what China does. I don't know what they'll do. They probably would try to get Russia, Belarus, and China into this situation somehow, because there's a lot of firepower and advanced weapons. Now, isn't this going to take, months to put together? Well, I just heard about it the other day, and now they had the meeting yesterday and today, an emergency meeting. So I would say they're on a very fast track with this thing. Because Israel is saying they're going to go around and attack the Hamas leaders around the world. See, then Israel gets the Hezbollah leaders around the world, the Al-Qaeda, the ISIS, the Houthi leaders, and, then Israel starts to live in peace and prosperity, and they don't want that. And all these other signs for America are coming together. So let's look at some prophecies regarding Egypt. And that just lends more credibility to this. I'm looking at the I haven't heard other people say that this broadcast is getting bad transmission on the internet. Could you pray that I get some real rest tonight for Samuel? Wait a minute. Samuel, okay, so for SV, we'll use the initials, SV. So we have a prayer request for SV to have really good sleep tonight and rest. And my Heavenly Father, over, I ask for SV to have really good sleep and rest tonight. I'm sure Mashiach and you guys can agree, make it more powerful. Okay, do I have any other prayer requests? I do take those seriously. All right, let's go to the prophecies. So, to go to Ezekiel 29. Ezekiel 29. Okay. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th day of the month, the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying. Now that's announcing the real prophecy. When he's saying the 10th year, he's talking about the 10th year of captivity in Babylon. Ezekiel was in this. Okay. Son of man. He refers to Ezekiel the same way he refers to Yeshua. So do you think Ezekiel was perhaps the Son of God? Came down in a flesh body, and when he died, went back to heaven to be with his Father. And all the prophets were sons of God, possibly, as a carry through on that. It's something I ponder and think about. Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and the great dragon that lieth in the midst of the rivers, which hath said, My river is mine, mine own, we would say my own, and I have made it for myself. So who is this dragon? Is this Satan? No, domicile is up in Cyprus. Pergamos. Actually, Pergamos, not Pergamum. Okay, so I don't have any great explanation for this, but let's keep going. But there are no, 280-foot dragon things floating around that are attacking ships or anything. That stuff happens in one city in America called Hollywood, and it's fictitious, okay? But I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will cause the fish of the river to stick unto thy scales, and will bring thee up out of the midst of thy river. So he's gonna, the fish are gonna stick to the scales of the dragon. Stinking iPad progressed the chapter on me. The fish are gonna stick to the dragon's scales. So, of course, the fish, the rivers, he calls them there of his rivers, making fun of them, to stick unto thy scales, and I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick unto thy scales. So they're going to cling to this dragon thing. And I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, thee and all the fish of thy rivers. Thou shalt fall upon the open fields, that thou shalt not be brought together, nor gathered. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of the heavens. So the fish are going to wind up on the land, and the animals and the birds are going to eat the fish, and apparently this dragon. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am Jehovah, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. I do not believe this was fulfilled yet. When they took hold of thee by thy hand, thou didst break and rend all their shoulder, and when they leaned upon thee, thou breakest and madest their loins to be at a stand. Now that's what they're doing now. Israel went to them and said, oh, help us with negotiating with Hamas, and they were stabbing Israel in the back, letting Hamas smuggle all the tunnel-making supplies and the weapons into Egypt. But now they're stabbing us in the back again. You see, it's coming to fulfillment. Can you dig it? 1960s talk. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will bring a sword upon thee, and cut off man and beast out of thee. Okay? And the land of Egypt shall be desolate and waste. You're reading this? That didn't happen yet. And they shall know that I am Jehovah. Well, I don't believe they shall know I am Jehovah ever really happened. Perhaps when the Israelites came out many years ago, they knew, or some of them, because some of them attached themselves to Israel and came to the wilderness with them and became incorporated into Israel by taking on the ways, the law, and all that. So, because he had said, the river is mine, and I have made it. Well, you can't do that. God doesn't like that. Now, maybe the people that came out of Egypt with them weren't Egyptians. They could have been slaves from other nations, okay? Behold, therefore, I am against thee and against thy rivers, and I will make thee That's the Nile River, by the way, that he's focusing on. And they catch a lot of fish in the Nile River. They freeze dry it, quick flash freeze it, and they sell it around the world. They sell it in Israel a lot. It's generally cheap and good. We bought it many times. Behold, therefore, I am, you don't kosher, the rabbis don't kosher fish for some reason. I don't know why. I guess fish don't really have blood like, beef or lamb. I don't know. Therefore, I am against thee and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited 40 years. Now, this 40 years complete diaspora, animals and all, that has not happened yet. You don't find that in history, okay? And I will make the land of Egypt desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities among the cities that laid waste shall be desolate 40 years, and I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and will disperse them throughout the countries. So it could be likely that this happens before the nations are destroyed, or it doesn't really add up that they would be scattered into the nations if the nations are already destroyed. What nations, See what I'm saying? Yet, thus saith Jehovah, Adonai Jehovah, at the end of 40 years will I gather the Egyptians from the people whither they were scattered, and I will bring again the captivity of Egypt, and will cause them to return to the land. The captivity of Egypt means they'll come back to live in Egypt, okay? They get run out of Iran, and they come back to live in Iran too. And the coming back to live there will happen before the great day of the Lord. Of return to the land of Pathros, into the land of their habitation, and they shall be there a base kingdom. In other words, very low. It shall be the basest of the kingdoms, neither shall it exalt itself anymore above the Goyim, above the heathen nations, for I will diminish them, that they shall no more rule over the Goyim, over the heathen nations. It's a powerful country. They push other countries around. And it shall be no more the confidence of the house of Israel. See, with that jackass Netanyahu, we kept going to Israel for, arbitration with Hamas. And what idiots to do that. I mean, Egypt's our enemy. No more the confidence of the house of Israel, which bringeth their lawlessness to remembrance, when they shall look after them, but they shall know that Ani Jehovah, that I am Adonai Jehovah. I am Jehovah God, or God Jehovah. And it came to pass in the 7 and 20th year, so the 27th year of the captivity, in the first month. So this was 10 years to 27, this is like 17 years later. The first month, in the first day of the month, the word of Jehovah came unto me, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus. Every head was made bald, and every shoulder was peeled. Yet had he no wages for his army, for Tyrus, for the service that he had served against it. Now, this is where we get into some very vague historical evidence as if this was fulfilled. The first thing you need to understand is whoever's the president of the United States at the time of the fulfillment of this in Jeremiah 50:51, it says this Nebuchadrezzar, referencing the leader of the United States. Here, he's referencing Nebuchadrezzar. He could be referencing, say, Trump here. Okay? Let's talk and we keep reading. I don't know. Therefore, thus saith Adonai Jehovah, behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon. Now, America is the daughter of Babylon, and the leader of it is referred to as this Nebuchadrezzar. So it could be referencing whoever the leader of America is right now, Trump. And he shall take her multitude and take her spoil and take her prey, and it shall be the wages for his army. So this is telling us that America is going to wipe out Egypt. Or is this something that happened in the past? It did happen in the past. It's not a lot of strong historical significance for this at all. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, Nebuchadrezzar. So he could be paying back. This sounds hard to follow, but maybe he could be paying back America for what it did in the old days of Babel, because it's got the same unclean spirits there. I don't know. I have given him the land of Egypt and his labor wherewith he served against it, because they wrought for me, saith Adonai Jehovah. Now, would Trump want this Egypt land? Yeah, because he could clear Gaza out into it. And he also might start looking at making a gambling resort in Egypt on the Mediterranean instead of Gaza. You might say this is much easier. I don't know. See, I don't know. I'm just giving you the possibilities, but I have an idea in the very immediate future. We're going to know a lot more, I think. In that day will I cause the horn of the house of Israel. Now, the horn is what fights, right? What does a rhino fight with his horn, you know? What do the deer fight when they fight with each other? Their horns, right? The horn of the house of Israel to bud forth, and I will give thee the opening of the mouth in the midst of them. And that's probably the seven streams, where the Red Sea goes into the Mediterranean, the Nile over there. That's probably what I'm thinking that is, the mouth in the midst of them. And they shall know that I am Jehovah. Well, that's certainly interesting, isn't it? I think it's pretty interesting. checking the live stream. So it could be that when this happens, the other Arab countries go after America, not Egypt, because America knocks out Egypt, and they say, well, we got to gang up on America or we're cooked. See, Egypt trying to form an alliance of 53 countries militarily, America, is dangerous, because how hard would it be for them to all decide they want to trade oil without using SWIFT and join BRICS or something? See what I'm saying? Scary stuff for Trump, big time. You think Trump is going to just say, well, they want to join an alliance of 53 countries and make it military? That's nice. Because these jackasses are going to turn on us. They're going to tell us what to do, you know. What do you think he's going to say? He's going to get mad. He's Trump. He's going to get mad. And Egypt's likely to tell him to take a long walk on a short pier. They're not interested. Let's go to Isaiah 19. Could Trump rule Egypt? Yeah. Yeah. What would advantages be if Trump took Egypt? Well, he thinks he could bust up this new alliance. He would get control of the red, you know, where the Red Sea goes, what do they call that? I forgot. They got a control there where they charge tariffs on that. What the heck is it called? Hang on a second. I forget things. I don't normally. Let's see. Egypt collects tolls here, and they make it's the Suez Canal, there you go. And they make a large amount of their national income from this canal, so it's a moneymaker. Trump's controlling the Panama Canal now. He's got military there. He's controlling it, and why not control the Suez Canal? Because then he could cut his enemies off from traversing the Panama Canal or the Suez Canal, make it a lot more burdensome on his enemies. Also, he could use it as a form of sanctions. This is the kind of thing Trump would like. He would get some sort of a fight out of Egypt, but I don't think they're any match for the United States. And Israel might, I don't know. Isaiah 19:1. The burden of Egypt, behold, Jehovah rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it. Now, those pyramid things, I would say, and the sphinxes and the I would think idols. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. Well, the Muslim Brotherhood, It's just sitting there waiting for an opportunity. And they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. That would be Basilia. No, that's actually the kingdom word. No, that's the actual kingdom word. And the spirit of Egypt shall fall in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers, the witches, and to them that have familiar spirits, and to the wizards. No, all the witchcraft and Satan bots and stuff like that. And the Egyptians will I give over into the hand of a cruel lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them. Then that could be the current El-Sisi there. He's pretty hard. Saith Jehovah, saith Adonai Jehovah of armies. And the waters shall fail from the sea, and the river shall be wasted and dried up. Well, we read that. And they shall turn the rivers far away, and the brook of defense shall be emptied. So this is drying up the rivers and the Nile and all that, so you can walk over it, dry shod, all this stuff. The brook of the pool shall be emptied and dried up. The reeds and the flags shall wither. The reeds that people use to blow, like clarinets and other musical instruments, many of them come from Egypt. The paper reeds by the brooks, I don't know if that's what they use in the musical. I know it's just a reed on them. By the mouth of the brook, and everything sown by the brooks shall wither, be driven away, and be no more. Okay. The fish also shall mourn, and all they that cast angle into the brook, the fishermen, shall lament, and they that spread nets upon the waters shall languish. Again, fishermen. Moreover, it says the fishers shall mourn. Those are the ones that catch fish. Okay. So it's not talking about the fish themselves mourning. Okay. Moreover, they that work, it says fishers, and then it says those that cast the hooks. Yeah, it's the fishermen people, the nets and so forth. Moreover, they that work in fine flax. Flax makes linen, and they have very good linen in Egypt. And they that weave networks shall be confounded. Well, they have very good cotton also in Egypt. They weave, they make sheets, pillowcases, towels, clothing. The wealthy people tend to like to buy Egyptian cotton towels and sheets and stuff like that. They got very fine, smooth, soft material. And they shall be broken in the purposes thereof that make sluices and ponds for fish. They get the fish to go from the river into a little area where they can't really swim out, and then they just kind of scoop them up from it. Surely the princes of Zoan are fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. How say you unto Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings? Where are they? And what's my place? This last guy there. Okay. I got it back now. Let me. Where was I? I think I'm in 12. Let's try that. Where are they? Where are thy wise men? And let them tell thee now, and let them know what Jehovah of hosts hath purposed upon Egypt. The prince of Zoan are the princes, the rich people, the government people, the high-ranking government, the big business owners, stuff like that, landowners, are become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. Jehovah, which mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof. Okay, so Jehovah gave them a perverse spirit to lead them into destruction. Okay, and it's an evil spirit, an unclean spirit. They'll follow it. Perverse means off the acceptable way. It takes them in a perverted, a stupid way, or a path, or a route, or way of living. Jehovah hath mingled the perverse spirit in the midst thereof. They have caused Egypt to err, the perverse spirit. Every work thereof is a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. Neither shall there be any work for Egypt which the head or tail branch or may do. So they're going into poverty. In that day shall Egypt be like unto women, and it shall be afraid and fear because of the shaking of the hand of Jehovah of hosts shall shake over it, and the land of Judah shall be a terror unto Egypt. Every one that maketh mention thereof shall be afraid in himself because of the counsel of Jehovah of hosts, which he hath determined against Egypt. So they're going to be scared of us. So we get into this fracas too. Maybe we're the ones that waste them. I don't think so. Well, maybe, I don't know. In that day shall, or maybe multiple, I don't know, shall 5 cities in the land of Egypt speak the language of Canaan, that's the Arabic stuff, and swear to Jehovah of hosts. One shall be called the city of destruction. In that day shall there be an altar to Jehovah in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to Jehovah. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness unto Jehovah of armies in the land of Egypt, for they shall cry unto Jehovah because of the oppressors, and he shall send them a Savior and a great one, and he shall deliver them. 2 witnesses, Apostle John, you know, those are the obvious choices. And Jehovah shall be known to Egypt, and the Egyptians shall know Jehovah in that day, and shall do sacrifice and oblations, yea, they shall vow a vow unto Jehovah and perform it. And Jehovah shall smite Egypt. He shall smite, and he will heal, like he is to Israel in the 2,000 years. And they shall return even to Jehovah, and he shall be entreated of them. They shall call on him, and shall hear them, and he hears them. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrian shall come to Egypt, and the Egyptian to Assyria, into Assyria. And the Egyptian shall serve with the Assyrian. In that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, and with Assyria, even a blessing in the midst of the land, whom Jehovah of hosts shall bless, saying, listen hard, blessed be Egypt my people, and Assyria the work of my hands, and Israel my inheritance. Now, Israel is his inheritance, the firstborn, but Egypt was nice to the Israelites for a while, a long while when he banished them there, so he pays them back. And the Assyrians freed the Israelites from Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, so he pays them back nicely, gives them a nice payment. But this isn't going to happen until after the 40-year diaspora. Okay? So it looks like this is it. Let me peek into the live stream quickly. We could find more prophecies about Egypt, but I think we got enough. So does this new thing that Egypt's raising, does it destroy America? It looks like it's a strong contender for destroying America because it's multiple nations, and they're cruel, and they don't care about the gold and the silver and the money, and they kill the babies, and they loot and pillage the place, and kill everybody. That's who it sounds like to me. Now, the Chinese, they might be that way with the cruelty, but they wouldn't destroy the idols. They have their own idols, and um, they wouldn't be smashing babies' heads open, and they're not into that kind of stuff. I don't think so. Burning the place. That's what the they did to us on October 7th. Is this going to also lead to the siege against Israel in Zechariah 12? Likely. But I think first they'll try to get rid of America. Because I don't know if they're going to want to do a siege while America is still running around. It could be too bloody. Now, these countries, these Arabic countries, probably got plenty of sleeper agents in America already. And like I said, they could and probably will try some sort of alliance with China, North Korea, Russia, Belarus, Iran. And, maybe they'll let Iran in with them. I don't know. So we know Egypt's going to get it for 40 years. We know Yemen's going to get it forever because it's Edom. And we know that Moab, central and southern Jordan's going to get it. And Iran's going to get it, but Iran makes a comeback like Egypt does. And we haven't seen these things yet, and we will see them. But this sounds like the perfect match for the destruction of the daughter of Babylon when you read about it, They're not coming in with aircraft, they're coming in on the ground, it sounds much like them. This other scripture, I can take a look at it. It would be Ezekiel 30, but I think this is concerns itself with the day of the Lord, which is 70 years down the road. Ezekiel 30. See, what you guys got to do is you got to put all this together. You don't isolate it. You put this together with the fires breaking out all over America, with the earthquakes, with the volcanoes, right? The storms, the wind things, the continuing whirlwind of the Lord, the ruler against Trump, the governors, the mayors, the judges against him, right? The economy bad, the weather bad, the drought. And then Israel fighting an 8-front war, basically. The UN trying to do a Palestinian state. Almost, I think 142 countries the other day voted to have a Palestinian state. See, you got to put it all together in your crock pot, and cook it. Okay? And then you see how it is. And Yeshua said, watch. He said repeatedly to watch. What did he want us to watch? The soccer game, the ball game, the basketball? No. Watch. Lift up your head, your redemption draweth nigh. Well, he said, when you see these things, lift up your head, your redemption draweth nigh. So we're supposed to watch for the things, the signs that cause us to lift up our head, redemption draweth nigh. So don't let people tell you that you shouldn't be watching the news for these signs, okay? Because then it falls apart. It doesn't make sense. Okay, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith Adonai Yehovah, how you woe worth the day? Hal, you, woe. That's what it says. For the day is near, even the day, that's your Gog and Magog, that's about 70 years down the road, is near a cloudy day, it shall be the time of the heathen, and the sword shall come upon Egypt, and great pain shall be in Ethiopia when the slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her multitude, and her foundations shall be broken. Ethiopia and Libya and Lydia and all the mingled people and Chub and the men of the land that is in league shall fall with them by the sword. But you're talking Gog and Magog now. So Egypt had their 40-year diaspora, they came back, and now some of them are getting ugly. So they're going to get punished. So I think this is not really something we should put a lot of time into now because it's a down the road thing. Well, he says some stuff here that is pretty interesting, though. When we keep reading down, it says, like in verse 9, in that day shall messengers go forth from me in ships to make the careless Ethiopians afraid, and great pain shall come upon them as in the day of Egypt, for it, lo, it cometh. Thus saith Adonai Jehovah, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadrezzar, king of Babylon. Well, I don't think this was fulfilled. Let me look that up. Ezekiel 30, verse 10. Now, maybe you'll get a partial fulfillment. Let's see. There was never a full-scale invasion of Egypt by Nebuchadrezzar. One time he tried it, it got repelled. Uh, he had some campaigns against countries, including Egypt, but it doesn't appear that he ever really did this in Egypt. Not in history. So it doesn't appear there was a fulfillment of that. See, this is how you got to go through it. It's kind of rough, and then we're relying on history books, and, don't like that, but can't get around it either. So now we're in verse 11. He and his people with him, the terrible of the heathen nations, shall be brought to destroy the land, and they shall draw the swords against Egypt and fill the land with the slain. All right, so I don't think that's got a, well, we could keep reading it just to make sure. And the sword shall come upon Egypt, and great pain shall be in Ethiopia. The slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her multitude, and her foundations shall be broken. Oh, I covered this already. Let's go back here. I will make the rivers dry, and see, this could be again it, that what we read about, it could be it again. Just giving us the same thing from a different angle that we believe is going to happen now. Well, verse 11 is, he and his people with him, the terrible of the heathen nations, shall be brought to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords and against Egypt and fill the land with the slain. And I will make the rivers dry, and we know about that, and sell the land into the hand of the wicked. And I will make the land waste, and all that is therein by the hand of strangers. Jehovah I have spoken it, thus saith Jehovah Elohim, I don't know Jehovah. I will destroy the idols, and I will cause their images to cease out of Noph, which is Egypt. And this sounds like what we read previously. And there shall be no more a prince in the land of Egypt, and I will put a fear in the land of Egypt, and I will make Pathro desolate, and will set fire in Zoan, and will execute judgment. That's another city, and I will pour my fury upon Sin, another city of Egypt, and Sin, the strength of Egypt, and I will cut off multitude of, no, and I will set fire in Egypt. Sin shall have great pain, and no shall be rent asunder, and no shall have distress daily. The young men of Aven and Phi-Beset shall fall by the word. So I'm in verse 18 of Ezekiel 30. At Teraphanes, oh boy, I don't know how to pronounce it. Teaphanes. Also the day shall be darkened when I shall break the yokes of Egypt, and the pomp of her strength shall cease in her. As for her, a cloud shall cover her, and her daughter shall go into captivity. Thus will I. That's the 40-year captivity. And this thing progress to the next chapter. Nice of this piece of junk, apple garbage. I can't stand products. Where was I, like 19 or something? Thus will I execute judgment in Egypt, and they shall know that I am Jehovah Ani. Jehovah is what it says. And it came to pass in the 11th year, and that's the 11th year Babylonian captivity, in the first month, the 7th day, the word of the Lord came to me. Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and lo, it shall not be bound up. So his arm's broken, probably his right arm, where he would hold the sword, and you can't fix it, you can't bind it up. To be bound up, to be healed. It's not going to heal. To put a roller, to bind it, to make it strong, to hold the sword. So put some sort of cast in there so he could hold the sword. No, it won't happen. Therefore, thus saith, I don't know, Jehovah, behold, I am against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and will break his arms from the strong, and that which was broken. And I will cause the sword to fall, but the fall out of his hand, and I will scatter the Egyptians amongst nations. And we read that in the other prophecies of Egypt, and will disperse them through the countries or the nations, the heathen nations. Oh no, it says through the land here, not the goyim. It says through the land, or it can mean the earth, the world, you know. And I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, that would be America, and put my sword in his hand, and I will break Pharaoh's arms, and he shall groan before him with the groaning of a deadly wounded man. It sounds like Trump does it in. But I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall down, and they shall know that that I am Jehovah, Ani Jehovah, when I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babel, and he shall stretch shall know that I am Jehovah. I shall put my sword in the hand of the king of Babylon, that would be Trump today, and he shall strengthen it, but he shall stretch it out. He shall stretch out upon the land of Egypt. Okay, so he does Egypt. And he puts his sword, so he gives some kind of good weapons to America. And I will scatter probably this happens because Egypt's really gunning for Israel. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations and disperse them among the countries, and they shall know that I am Jehovah. So I'm looking at this, and I think Egypt might get it in an isolated fashion, not along with all the other countries doing the siege in Zechariah 12. This may infuriate the nations against Trump, causing the attack on Trump after Trump wasted Egypt. Now, Trump may also waste Iran. So things are getting interesting, and this coalition that Egypt is trying to put together could run after Egypt gets destroyed. They could get scared and then do it even more so. So things are moving nicely according to God's plan, which is the prophecy. So you should be rejoicing because you're going to be very, very happy for a long, probably forever. Look, once you have everlasting life, you go 70 years here, but you're going to be a young person at the end of the 70 years. So let's just, I don't know, we'll pick a figure. Say God makes you like you're 22 years old, okay? Something like that. You shall jump out of the stall like the baby calf. So then in 70 years, you might look like somebody that's 27 or 30 even maybe, but I doubt even 30. Like 27, 25, 26. Then you're going to go into New Jerusalem. Yeah, you're going to get through the falling away because you're not going to fall away. You know what it's like here with Satan. You think you're going to fall away and say, gee, now's the time to join Satan. What are you, nuts? You'd never do that. You know what a schmuck he is and how he creates misery. You never would do that. So what happens? So then you wind up surviving because God puts the mark on your forehead if you're in Jerusalem. Nothing bad happens to you. You stay there. Your house isn't looted. You're not raped. You're not plunged. You're not pillared. You're not going into captivity. Read Zechariah 14. And then what? Then what happens? Yeshua comes, the beast goes to the lake of fire, the false prophet goes to the lake of fire, the talking statue probably just becomes dust. It's not a living thing. You don't put it in the lake of fire, it's a statue. And then it's like saying artificial intelligence is alive. It's stupid. I mean, I don't know what it is, but it ain't real. And then you have Satan goes into the pit, and then we're in the millennium for more than 1,000 years. Well, the 1,000 years is the millennium. And that's our rest. What a rest that is. And there's no death. It says in the scripture, there's no death. There's not going to be a falling away from New Jerusalem. So basically, if you make it till, listen to me, if you make it till Yeshua appears in the clouds, you'll have everlasting life. And the chances of you making it to New Jerusalem are extremely high. And then you have no death. And then after Satan's release, he gathers them like the sand of the sea. And then Father God Jehovah comes down, burns the whole universe up, and there's no place to stand, so we meet him in the air, and we go up on the clouds to heaven. And the before that, the people that died in Christ, their bodies get resurrected, and they go up. And, then you're in heaven, and when you're in heaven, the problems are over. When you're in New Jerusalem for the 1,000 years, they'll pretty much be over, but then it comes back. But I don't believe there'll be a falling away from the people in New Jerusalem at all. It's a testing and they all pass. That's how I view it. And then when that happens and they all pass, the Lord says, we're done. Then he burns up this whole place, which is just a testing place, and then we're up there with him. And what happens after that, we're not told very much, but rest assured it'll be pretty darn good. I don't have the right words, it'll be super great, okay? Have a great time. Always. For trillions of years, for an infinite, unlimited amount of time, you'll always have a great time. The whole cascade of wonderful stuff is about to begin any day, so why are you bummed out? I mean, had your redemption birth nigh, you'll jump out of the stall like a calf. You'll have a heart of flesh. You'll put the law in your heart. And your inward parts, I mean, they shall all know me from the least to the greatest. This is going to be wonderful. And you're going to have a really good run in Israel before the falling away comes. I mean, decades anyway. That'll be really peaceful. You'll be growing big families. If any of you don't want to get married, I mean, I don't think there's a scripture that says, thou shalt get married. There is no such. You won't get married. You don't want to get married. You don't want to get married. So you don't get married. Many will, and the ones that think they don't want to get married will probably change when they get everlasting life. I think they'll change. And you'll be growing big families. Big families. So, I mean, it's the worst is so far finished any day now. When you get the everlasting life, you're in pretty good shape. You're sliding into home plate. When you get into New Jerusalem, you're not exactly, I mean, we could say we're in home plate in terms of this earth, right? Okay? But when you get into heaven, that's really home plate, So if you're going around the bases, when, you get to everlasting life, I'd say you're on second base. Okay? When you get to baseball-wise, when you get to New Jerusalem, you're in third base. And then when you get up to heaven, you're in home. You made it home. That's your real home. Not New Jerusalem and that kind of thing. New Jerusalem is temporary. 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So it's going to be around for what, a day, plus a half a day, or a quarter of a day, or something to the Lord. It's up there. That's the real place. And you'll have a place up there. You'll have a joint. Not a joint, a place to live. You'll have a domicile of some sort. Now, we don't have yet a lot of knowledge about what life is like over there, but I'm sure we will in the millennium anyway. So, there's bad stuff, and a lot of people are going to die, and whenever you have an end of the age or changing of things, that happens. And, Gog and Magog is over, there's going to be a lot of dead people, and then when the millennium is over, there'll be a lot of dead people. That's how it goes. He has a testing place, and he gets rid of the ones that fail. He wants to make sure we don't have any bad ones up in heaven. There were bad angels up in heaven. It was really unpleasant when they had Satan up there accusing the God all the time and everything. So they don't want this. God doesn't want this. So weird with my. Let me try this. There it is. I got it. Yeah, we're okay here. So, all right. So I pray for all the true believers in Yeshua HaMashiach, my Heavenly Father, that you would free them and rid them of all the problems brought on them by this world system, Satan's system. Whatever the problems are, they would be lifted and alleviated from them. Okay. I pray that their sins be loosed away from them, not retained. And I pray you would pour your spirit out on all the true believers in Yeshua HaMashiach with the gifts of the Spirit and, much shalom, your peace, your joy, your calm, your rest, your patience. I pray their finances would be more than adequate. I pray their health would be good and the healing would be taking place in them. I pray they could absorb and understand the scriptures. I pray that they could meet together with other true believers and do binding, loosing, agreeing in prayer. And I pray that we could meet physically and then Yeshua would be in the midst of us with two or more are gathered together. There I am in the midst of you. And I pray that you show us more about end times and where we're at and when things are going to happen without giving us the day or the hour. And I pray all this to you, my Heavenly Father, for me, my wife, and all the true believers and their households and their families as well as it applies. And I pray to you, B'Shem, my Heavenly Father, Jehovah, B'Shem Yeshua HaMashiach, and agree. And please pray for better videos and pray for our finances, that the offerings come back on like they used to. Some came in, it was nice, some came in, but pray that the offerings turn on again. I've got to make 3 months rent soon. So pray that happens, because you pay the rent 4 times a year, so that stinks, but that's how this guy does it. So, and pray for I don't know what else. That's it. Pray for the peace of Yerushalayim. And thanks. And I hope you got something out of this. Thank you for the offerings, and we hope more come in, because we got a big nut to crack coming up. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and I'm out. Thanks, guys.